Welcome, trainers, to a brand new season of the Trainer Trio. We've conquered Kanto, we've mastered Johto, and now it's time to set sail for Hoenn. Get ready for new battles, new Pokemon, and probably way too many water routes. My name is Chris. I'm playing Pokemon Ruby, and I'm also joined by my two fellow co-hosts.
My name is Sean, and I'm playing Pokemon Emerald, and I hope to unite both the sea and land.
And my name is Dustin. I'm playing Pokemon Sapphire. And after playing through a whole season with a Ghost-type Pokemon, I still don't remember that it has no effect against normal-type Pokemon.
And we are known as the Trainer Trio.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 1. For all of our new listeners out there, thank you for joining in. This is a good starting point, even though we do have 2 other seasons. So if you do want to go back and listen, you can. Otherwise, you can continue listening right here. I guess we should get one thing off our chest. This is not the first time we are recording this episode. After recording about 20 episodes in 2 seasons, we finally had our first real big hiccup, thanks to Sean.
So what happened was me, did not realize that I do not have enough storage space on my computer to save the recording. And we didn't notice that until we finished the full recording. So it was a very depressing day. And so very sorry. I'm sure we will still have the same energy and enthusiasm that you all have come to know and love about us.
Well, since we're professional podcasters, we will definitely have the same energy that we had the first time around. Also, not to mention that we've been relatively slow at this anyway, so I might have beaten my section a while ago, but that's okay.
Honestly, I heard Chris has a photographic memory, so he'll be fine.
I do have photographic memory. I can recite to you by memory what exactly we're going to do in this episode.
What are we going to do in this episode, Chris?
100% by memory. We're going to start in Littleroot Town, then go to Route 101, Oldale Town, Route 103, then back to Route 102, Petalburg City, Route 104, the Petalburg Woods, and then finally face our first gym leader in Rustboro City. How's that for memory?
Pretty lackluster, if I'm being honest.
Totally wasn't reading any of that.
As you guys should all know, we're now in a new region. And being in a new region means we have new names, new Pokemon, and new everything. It's very exciting because we're now in Hoenn. And Hoenn is a great region. I think we've already discussed for all of us. It's kind of our real jumping off point for Pokemon. So there's just a lot more nostalgia for this game compared to games that we may have been a little bit too young to really remember much of for the first 2 generations. So I hope you guys could hear our excitement to finally dive into the waters region known as Hoenn.
Very exciting for both me and Sean because we actually get to play on the Nintendo DS this time. So we get that nice backlit screen. I can actually see things at night.
I was feeling your guys' pain because although I do have the Game Boy player, I started using that Game Boy Advance that doesn't have the backlit screen, and I hated it so much that I went to a local video game shop and bought an SP.
How much was that?
It was actually really nice. They refurbished it and gave it a brand new plastic shell. So it's a little redone, but it was $115 or something like that. It was worth it for the backlit screen to be able to play portably. I completely second your guys' opinions, though. My first note that I wrote was that the nostalgia hits hard just with the opening screen, seeing the opening, listening to the Littleroot theme, just everything was hitting me in the feels.
Well, I think we should introduce ourselves as the new trainers who will hopefully be able to conquer the Hoenn region.
Yes, and as we introduce ourselves, we did select new trainer types too, which we started last season. We'll see if we can emulate those trainer types throughout this season, but it's just something to give a little bit more flair to our characters. Let's start off with Sean.
So I think the most important question that you haven't asked me, Dustin, am I a boy or a girl?
Which one are you, Sean?
In this run, I am a girl. My name is Battle Girl Riri. I got that name based off Rihanna because I love her. And I decided to be a girl because I think that the sprite for May, we'll get to it, but that's the girl's name in this run. It's just so iconic. And playing on Pokemon Emerald, I just felt like I should switch it up, play as the May sprite, named her Riri, and hopefully conquer this region.
Looks like we had a girl now for 2 seasons running, just with the introduction of girls into the game, so that's cool to see.
Chris, Are you a boy or girl?
You know, I spent so much time being a girl last generation that I thought it was only fair that I was a boy this time around. So I'm a boy, and my name this time around is going to be Rudy. Not just because my game is Pokemon Ruby, but because I am always the underdog when it comes to these two guys. So I named my character after the guy in the sports film. Actually was a real guy named Rudy who played on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish with Joe Montana. He was a real rag to riches story.
I heard that story isn't entirely accurate, though.
Well, you know what? I didn't actually go to the Hoenn region and make Pokemon fight against each other, but my name is Rudy.
Wow, touch a nerve there.
I love how you're still coming into this season with the underdog energy too, even though you just won the last season, Chris.
I feel like after season 1, I cemented myself as the mediocre trainer and I won't be able to shake it.
Chris knows that victory is only temporary. All right, enough about Chris. Dustin, are you a boy or girl?
Riri and Rudy, I hope you continued the trend, Dustin.
Well, similar to last season, I'm not really either a boy or a girl. In this case, I'm a middle-aged man, and I went by the Pokemon Ranger type, and the name of my character is Caspian Olivine. So for those keen listeners out there who listened to last season, Olivine was the same last name as Gentleman Oliver Olivine from season 2, and that's because this is actually Gentleman Oliver Olivine's younger brother. His backstory around this character is that he has really spent his life studying nature and protecting the coastline of Olivine City, while his older brother Oliver managed the city being the mayor. Of course, timeline-wise, the Hoenn region takes place 3 years before Silver, so my character, Caspian, never actually got to see his older brother Olivine take on the Elite Four and become the champion of the Johto region, because 3 years before Oliver went on his Pokemon journey, there was one fateful night where everything changed. While Caspian was analyzing the shifting weather patterns, storms in nearby regions, he actually saw something he couldn't quite explain over in the nearby region of Hoenn. And just for a moment, there was a blip on his radar where there's a large anomaly, which was impossible. It didn't quite match anything Caspian had seen before. So if his hunch was correct, it could be powerful enough to alter the very seas. So the very next day, Caspian went to the docks. He started getting his sailboat ready to go across the sea from the Johto region over to the Hoenn. And that's where Olivine came to say goodbye to him. He said, "You've always chased storms, Caspian, but this one feels different. Don't lose yourself out there. Remember, Olivine will always be your home." And with that, Caspian set out to sea, trying to find out what is happening in the Hoenn region and possibly trying to save the world in the process.
That was so touching, Dustin.
That epic backstory completed.
I mean, I can't wait to build out more of the Olivine lore, see what that family is up to. I mean, again, this takes place 3 years before our season 2, so we'll have to see starting Olivine's brother ends up by the end of this.
Listeners, stay tuned for when Dustin releases the manga based on his new characters.
That would be amazing.
The manga is coming, guys. We now start off in the back of a moving truck, and I just love how this game starts off. My first notes was, loved hopping out of the van, such a nostalgic way to start. Again, just because this game is rooted in so much nostalgia for all of us, and it's just such an interesting way to start, because you're just like, what is happening? I'm in a van, and then you jump out, and bam, you're in Littleroot Town.
I know. I really feel like this is the start of modern Pokemon. Like, once the game booted up and I looked at everything, the first 2 generations really have a feel to them, very pixelated, very Game Boy Color. It feels nice to finally be making into what I like to consider the modern era. It just looks great.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Chris. It definitely felt like just coming back to my childhood, opening up and actually having a good looking game. I would say the first 2 games, I mean, they're playable, but I wouldn't really say, I mean, to today's standards, they aren't really that good looking. I just love the art style that they did. It's 16-bit now, right?
I think it's 16. I think it's comparable to the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, just the 16-bit sprites and just animations just look so amazing. But going back to just like the moving truck, this is also the first time as the main character that they're moving to a new town. We don't start in the character's hometown, so I'm kind of wondering where our character came from. So I'm wondering if we'll find that out.
Also, for our listeners, I love how this started because also I moved very recently. And so when I was playing this, I'm like, oh, I moved. Battle Girl Riri moved. We are the same.
Is that what you were thinking while you were in the back of your U-Haul?
Yep, that's how I traveled. It saved money that way. Kind of building off what Dustin was saying, just the graphical improvements. When you get out of the moving van, you go into your house and then you see Pokemon sprites, the full-on sprites actually moving. I don't think they're actually moving stuff, but you see them moving around in your house. And for me, it was Vigoroth who are moving because I'm playing Emerald. But if I remember correctly, which Pokemon were moving the stuff for your guys' games?
They were Machokes.
See, and I think it's kind of cool how they switched that up because it makes more sense to have the Vigoroth because it's a little foreshadowing for the future because I already know what's going to be happening. But at the same time, Machoke, very big, strong Pokemon, so it makes sense that they're moving. You will notice a lot of small changes with the Pokemon sprites, and I just really think this was the Pokemon companies flexing the new graphical improvements by showing the actual sprites in the overworld, because we very rarely saw that in the original 2 gens that we just played.
Yeah, my favorite thing was when you saw those sprites in the first 2 gens. I think especially in the first generation, they would just look so weird and you would be like, I need to talk to the Pokemon to figure out what this even is. And then even there, they would do a cry. It would say something along the lines of, Slowpoke said, like none of the words ever sounded correctly. So now we can actually tell what's happening.
Talk about things that were made better. There's like the new PC and bag UI looks very crisp, nice to use.
Let's focus in on the house because the one note I wrote was orange GameCube in all caps because in your room you have an orange GameCube. And this might be a hot take, but GameCube was one of my favorite consoles by Nintendo.
Yeah, I agree. I actually still have a GameCube hooked up to my TV today, so 100% in agreement. I actually have one negative that I want to talk about with this generation.
Too much water?
No. One of the first actions that you do in this game is you go upstairs to set your clock, which we all have working batteries in this game, so we'll be able to do all time-based events, but how disappointing is it that day and night just disappeared? It's going to be daytime for this entire journey.
Chris, you're complaining about the day and night cycle in the last game, and now you're saying you complain that's not there? I don't know, Chris. Can't get both ways.
I like the aesthetics. I do not like that certain Pokemon only appear at certain times. It would still be so cool to see Hoenn at night. And Sean, you probably know this. I think they implemented it in Gen 6, right?
I feel like Pokemon has a love-hate relationship with the time mechanics because I believe it definitely wasn't in Gen 4. It may have been in Gen 5. You know what? We're getting ahead of ourselves. But anyways, they've reintroduced it in several different ways that we will talk about in the future. But yeah, they kind of have a love-hate relationship with that mechanic specifically.
I think this is kind of the first signal to Pokemon fans that your favorite features may not continue each generation. Because I think Gen 2 had everything that Gen 1 could do. And then Gen 3 can do a lot. But this was the first time that it was, you can't carry over your new Pokemon. And your day-night cycle, you may have liked it, but we couldn't do it. So I think that was kind of a big deal for a lot of people.
I'm glad that we got rid of the day and night cycle because I think that's one reason why Chris got the Pokemon Hunter title from last season. I was not out there catching Pokemon at all hours.
Anyways, continuing on, we eventually find out that our dad is a gym leader, and our mom tells us that he's on TV, but by the time we go watch TV, we miss him and aren't able to see him sadly. But our dad's a gym leader. That's pretty cool. We actually have a dad this generation.
That was my note too. All caps. We have a dad.
And then going from there, we go to meet our next door neighbor. And so for me, this was a pretty cool interaction. I don't think it's the exact same for you guys, so I will let you guys explain how it was meeting your next door neighbor.
Okay, I do have my notes here where you basically surprise May's mom that you're there, and then you do go upstairs and do encounter her for the first time. This is actually a moment too where your character is actually speaking and just shows dots. So that is also a new addition, even though you don't understand what your character is saying. And then She lets you know that her goal is to help her dad, Professor Birch, capture Pokemon.
For me, what ends up happening is you go into the next door neighbor's house, and then you go upstairs, and then you notice there's a Pokeball in the middle of the room. And so you go up to it, you interact with it, and then you see your next door neighbor. For me, it was the guy. His name is Brendan, because you also don't get to name your rival in this generation, which is strange because in the last two, we were able to. Anyways, you interact with the Pokeball, and he just says, hey, that's my Pokeball. Leave it. And then you meet him, and then you have your little talk with him, and he leaves. And then you can still interact with the Pokeball, and then when you do, it just says, oh, this is your neighbor's Pokeball. You shouldn't take it.
Yeah, that is not how it happened for us. I mean, as Dustin was saying, our rival was just sitting there. So that's kind of cool that they added that.
But then after that, we head out, and then you could look into the lab, but it's empty because Professor Birch, who we've learned about, isn't there. But if you go north into Route 101, you hear a man crying for help. And for me, he's crying for help because a Zigzagoon is chasing him. But what's chasing him for your guys' game?
For us, it was a Poochyena. Poochyena.
You had it the first time.
I never learned how
I
to
think
pronounce.
it's a Pookhyena.
Both of you guys are not talking anymore.
It was whatever Sean didn't say.
And so he's like, oh, I have Pokeballs in the bag, grab one. And this is when we all get our starters, who I believe we already... No, did we not introduce them in the pre...
No, we didn't.
Oh.
So this is where I will be inserting us talking about why we chose our Pokemon, because we actually discussed this in episode 0, but didn't want to reveal that there. So, bam, clip.
So let's start with the winner of the last generation who got the first dibs on their starter, Chris.
Which one did you choose?
No help. Right now. Tell us right now. Stop thinking pick.
I have picked already, and it sucks, Sean, because I tried to get Dustin to tell me who he'd prefer.
He told me he wouldn't tell you.
He wouldn't tell me. He said he wouldn't influence my decision. So, okay. The Pokemon that I will be choosing is Torchic.
Torchic! Dang.
Torchic, I knew it.
It's going to be Torchic because that was my very first starter Pokemon and my very first copy of Pokemon Sapphire back when I was in first grade. It is Torchic. And named him Fowler, like a fowl, like a bird.
Well, that's what Dustin was going to pick.
Well, who's your starter then, Dustin?
It has to be my second starter, Treecko, because when I got Emerald, that was my first starter Pokemon after I previously had Ruby and played with Blaziken, but Sean lost that game, so I had to restart Crash.
Man, Sean is just ruining everything.
You guys are handing me Mudkip.
What does that mean?
Swampert is like the most overpowered Pokemon in this generation.
Yeah. When I was talking to Dustin, I got inkling, like, is Mudkip really going to fall to me? And now Mudkip fell to me, which is just so crazy to me.
You know, I've never used them, so I don't know.
Because if I went first, I probably would have picked Mudkip too.
Really?
I'll just say I am shocked that Mudkip fell to me, because it's not just like, it is not a debate. Mudkip is the best starter. Like, by far, in any Pokemon generation, these starters you have, none of them performs as well as Mudkip does in this generation. Because Mudkip, its final evolution, Swampert, is a water ground, which ground means electric doesn't affect it. So Swampert can only be hit super effective by a grass move. There's no other move that hits it super effective. The only trainers that have grass Pokemon that you could even worry about is your rival, who has the Sceptile. There's no other really strong grass trainer or really strong grass Pokemon that anyone uses throughout this entire run. You're going to see as we go through this season, I'm going to just say, oh yeah, I use my Mudkip, and that is how I won the gym, because he's just so overpowered for so many of these gyms. If we ever got to it, or if anyone ever does Nuzlocks of these games, it's just a no-brainer to use a Mudkip because it's just so strong and so powerful. Which I can't believe you guys just let me get Mudkip.
Oh, I have your counter, the Sceptile, so we'll see how that goes. I couldn't beat you last season. This was all a ploy so I could beat you this season.
That was my second pick, was Mudkip. I was going back and forth because I haven't used a water type so far in our playthroughs, but no.
That's my second water type. It's your second fire type, right, Chris?
It is my second fire type. And I'm getting firefighting out of the way early because that combination's going to come back a few times.
It's true, I've been through every Pokemon type except for fire.
Yeah, the electric.
I've taken 2 of them.
And then we're back. what did you name your Mudkip? We never got to my name, but go for you first.
I mentioned Skipper's the Mudkip. There is no logic or reasoning behind it. I just thought Skipper's was a good name for my Mudkip.
For my starter, Treecko, kind of like with Gentleman Oliver Olivine, he had to give a tile to each Pokemon. Caspian Olivine has something similar, but more along his ranger roots. So I named him TY Sylvan. And the TY is the ranking of Typhoon, because, star Pokemons are pretty strong. That's the main reasoning there.
At this point in time, we're going to be doing something a little bit different this generation. It's a new segment that I will be introducing. It's going to be focusing in on some of the new introductions of, first and foremost, abilities, and second, Pokemon natures. So, in this generation, we'll talk about Pokemon natures first. Each Pokemon that you get has a specific nature, and these natures actually affect the stat distribution of these Pokemon. I'll just use an example. If a Pokemon has the adamant nature, that means it has an increased attack stat, but a decreased special attack stat. And so for several Pokemon in competitive play, you have to optimize which nature they have in order to get the most out of your Pokemon. And so my Mudkip, which I named Skippers, was a bashful nature, which is a neutral nature, meaning that no one stat was either increased or decreased. I don't think it's going to affect our games too much, the different natures, but I did just want to point that out since that's something new that is still in current Pokemon that has a very big impact on team building and competitive play. And then the second thing that I had mentioned is the introduction of Pokemon abilities. Every starter from now on is going to have the same ability for its respective type. If it's a grass type, it has the ability Overgrow. If it's a fire type, it has the ability Blaze. And if it's a water type, it has the ability Torrent. What these abilities specifically do is when your Pokemon gets to, I believe, 1/3 HP left, its corresponding type will deal more damage. So when my Mudkip gets down to 1/3 health, its water attacks will do more damage, and vice versa for every other starter. So these abilities are, I think, kind of cool for the starters because it's nothing super overpowered, but at the same time, it could help you win games. It makes you really feel as though your starter has that underdog mentality. And when the chips are down and it's about to be KO'd, it will hit that ember for just enough damage to knock down that other Pokemon.
You're just describing the spirit of Rudy right there. I love it.
I shouldn't have used Ember. When you use that water gun, it will knock down that Pokemon.
Are you guys actually going to pay attention to natures and reset your games if you don't like them? Or are you guys just
no. Skipper's already had a bashful nature, which is the nature I would have wanted for my Mudkip anyways, or one of the neutral natures. So there's no reason for me to go through all that.
Same here. I just want to play it like a brand new game. I am also a very basic player, so that sounds like too much effort.
I am not going to try too hard. I definitely checked my nature, though, just to make sure that it wasn't bad. And my Torchic had an adamant nature, which increases attack and lowers special attack, which can be good or bad depending on how you raise your Blaziken. So that might key you guys into how I might raise this Blaziken.
Yeah, and so the first Pokemon we encounter is the Zigzagoon for me, but the Poochyena for you guys. It's an easy battle to take it down. After that, we are taken to the lab with Professor Birch, and he's like, oh, you've really shown that this Pokemon likes you, so you could keep it. And then you're told to go meet up with his son and her daughter up north. And then we have our now first non-static encounter with a Pokemon. And so what was everyone's non-static first encounter?
Mine is super boring. My first Pokemon was a Zigzagoon just because it has the highest encounter rate of any wild Pokemon in Route 101.
Mine was also Zigzagoon.
Mine was also a Zigzagoon, but that's more exciting because it has a lower encounter rate in Emerald compared to the Ruby and Sapphire.
And I guess through here, you do make your way up to Oldale Town, where there's a sign that literally mentions where things start off scarce, because this town does not have too much in it. It does have a Pokemon Center, where NPC says that all the Pokemon Centers are free. So that free healthcare. And then this is also the beginning to all the tutorials, because when you go inside the Pokemon, someone gives you a little tutorial on just what a Pokemon is. But sadly, they're all sold out of Pokeballs.
Boo. It's rigged. While we're in a town, I forgot to ask you guys. Well, I asked these guys this question about a month ago, but there's something on the TV about two guys dancing on a big piano. Do you guys know what movie that is? Or do you guys listen to me when I tell you the answers?
You already know the answer to this. Of course we don't listen to you. Of course we don't remember.
I can't remember something that obscure from last month.
The movie they're referencing is the Tom Hanks movie Big, where there's a fun little dance scene on a toy piano.
They're referencing the movie Big from Tom Hanks. I remember that.
I remember it had a popular actor, but I didn't get to Tom Hanks.
And there you have it, guys. I can say as much as I want on this podcast, and they won't listen.
Luckily enough, you guys will listen. So thank you for that. Anyways, there's not much to do in Oakdale Town. It kind of sucks.
Starting because some dude discovered some rare Pokemon footprints and he's trying to sketch them, and he doesn't really want anybody to mess them up. So we have to go the other route, which is Route 103, to try and find our rival.
Should we speculate on what this rare Pokemon's going to be?
It's a Gyarados, I know it.
Yeah, with the Gyarados with all of its little feet that steps on.
I think it could be Arceus.
Arceus doesn't exist yet.
Of course Arceus exists. It's the god of all Pokemon.
Yeah, how were all Pokemon created?
Whoa. You guys are throwing out some crazy lore right now. You guys sound crazy. You're going to get arrested.
I think it's an Ultra Beast.
Anyways, you could go up north to Route 103, which again really doesn't have much, except it does have your next door neighbor who is also your rival.
Woohoo!
And this was also where my Pokemon leveled up for the first time, and it's so nice to just see all the stats on the screen when it levels up now. Like, I can't believe we survived 2 whole games not knowing what stats were going on.
Yeah, this rival battle was super easy for me because, I had a Mudkip for 1. For 2, she was already level 7, so it was really just a cakewalk.
Yeah, same with me. And Torchic has the slight advantage that its first move is Scratch, which has 100% accuracy, versus Tackle, which has 95. So there's always potential for Tackle to miss. It did not in my scenario, but it's a nice little advantage that Torchic has.
My battle is pretty easy too. After you beat her, she does mention to head back to the lab. It was cool because she actually does wait for you in Oakdale Town before heading back to the lab. So I thought that was a cool little visual, I guess.
Our rival actually is nice to us this game. Who would have thought?
Yeah, they definitely took a different direction with this one, which I'm glad they did. The first rival was a bratty kid. The second one was just a mean thief. I don't really know what they were going for there. And this one is kind of just a friendly neighborhood kid. Don't know if I like it more, but it's definitely different.
Yeah. Well, then we finally get our first Pokédex. Woo! First time getting a Pokédex from someone who's not Professor Oak, too.
From Professor Birch. And this is also where your rival actually gives you your first Pokeball. So very big departure, as Chris mentioned from the previous games.
And then so we head on up. But before we leave town, our mom stops us to give us the greatest item that has ever been introduced in Pokemon, the running shoes. And man, are these a game changer, because in the last 2 generations, there was no running shoes, so we couldn't run. And kids like to run. It's pretty weird that we couldn't run back then. Now we can, and run I will, all over all this water.
It really is a game changer. I think I got used to playing at slow speeds, but I want us to go back to Generation 1 when we're done with this game and see how torturous it is.
I will not be doing that, Chris, but you could go ahead and let us know how it is. As Dustin mentioned, we now have our first Pokeballs. So, what was everyone's first Pokemon that they caught?
Dustin, you go first.
I caught a Poochyena, or as some call it, a Pookhyena.
I actually think Dustin's correct for this because the Pokemon ends with the word hyena. So it should be Pook Hyena.
Anyways, I caught a Poochyena, and I named it Cheyenne the Poochyena.
I'm still laughing at that. I caught a Zigzagoon again, and I proceeded to catch 5 more Zigzagoons for reasons that you guys already know because I've explained it to you. But Zigzagoons have the ability pickup. So what that does...
Whoa, Chris, this is my section. I talk about the abilities.
Oh, yes.
our second ability highlight of the day, Pickup. And so as Chris was about to explain and steal my thunder, Pickup is an ability that after you battle, there's a percentage that your Zigzagoon, or whichever Pokemon that has this ability, will pick up a random item and be holding it. And now, Chris, I don't remember the exact percentage. I know for my game, the items that the Zigzagoon picks up are relative to the level it is. So the higher level the Zigzagoon is, or whatever Pokemon that has this ability, the better items you are able to get. I don't believe that's the case for your guys' game.
That's correct. In Pokemon Emerald, in your game, every 10 levels the chart adjusts and you can get different items to the point where if you're in the 90s, you could get Leftovers at a 1% chance or Earthquake, the TM26. I mean, you get really cool items. For better or for worse, that doesn't happen in Ruby and Sapphire. You're on a fixed chart no matter what level you are. But that means that I'm still getting pretty decent items. Like at a 10% chance, I could get a nugget, a rare candy, a 5% chance, a protein. However, the most likely object that I've been getting is a 30% chance of getting a super potion. So that's the reason why I decided to get all these Zigzagoons, because as I am grinding and as I am battling a bunch of Pokemon, if all 5 of my other team members are Zigzagoons, that gives me a 50% chance of getting at least one item after every single battle.
Those are good strats already. Moving on, we do go back to Oldale, where the pathway is now free to Route 102. Apparently, the guy that was trying to sketch the rare Pokemon footprints found out it was his own footprints, which is just crazy to think about.
So it wasn't a slithering Gyarados. Darn.
This is also where I caught a Pokemon that I'll include as the first Pokédex highlight of the season. Lotad. And Lotad is the water weed Pokemon, and his Pokédex reads, Lotad is said to have dwelled on land before. However, this Pokemon is thought to have returned to water because the leaf on its head grew large and heavy. It now lives by floating atop the water. I do really like the design of Lotad. I guess you guys will see if I include him into my party later on.
That's so sad because Lotad is such a cool Pokemon, but it's not available in Pokemon Ruby. Instead, we have the Pokemon Seedot, which is a horrible Pokemon that I tried raising, but don't do it. Go with Lotad if you have the option.
Night and day between those two.
And the one interesting thing too is that Lotad only knows Astonish at this moment when you first catch it, which is a ghost type. And of course, I tried to use it against a Zigzagoon and it didn't do anything. And it's just frustrating. Why doesn't Ghost affect normal type Pokemon?
Again, this is the person whose ultimate team Pokemon is a Gengar from the last generation. You know, the only Ghost type Pokemon you encounter basically in the past 2 generations.
There are some other Pokemon that you can catch on Route 102. Are there any Pokedex highlights or stories you guys want to tell?
I know I can't encounter this Pokemon in my game, but did either of you encounter a Surskit on this route?
No.
No.
I remember that this is a 1% encounter chance, which is really strange because Surskit kind of sucks. It starts off of a really unique typing, and then so Dustin also mentioned Lotad, which is a really cool Pokemon because of its unique typing of grass and water, which is just a very helpful and again, very unique typing. Surskit is really cool because it's a bug and water Pokemon. So it's another typing that really benefits it, but for whatever reason, when it evolves, it loses the water type and gains a flying type. Because, you know, we haven't had enough bug and flying type Pokemon yet. So why not throw another one?
Why is that a 1% encounter rate? What were they thinking?
It does give you something to strive for, I guess.
My Pokemon highlight of Route 102, which is at a 4% encounter rate. Keep in mind, that is 4 times higher than Surskit, is Ralts, which is considered one of the best Pokemon in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. And I did catch this Ralts, and I named him Raltenstraw after my favorite ice cream chain, Salt and Straw.
I did not see that coming.
Although, as we're talking about Pokemon that know really bad moves to start off, Ralts only knows Growl until, I believe, level 6.
I didn't even know you could catch a Ralts on 1-2 until a little bit later in the game. But after I found out, that's when I remembered you can find him at this route, and I spent some time to capture my own Ralts.
Oh, that's funny enough, because I caught my own Ralts. And for you seasoned listeners out there, you know if any two of us have the same Pokemon in our party, whoever wins the battles that round gets to keep that Pokemon. So there might be a showdown to see who gets the Ralts or its later evolutions in our party. That would be quite exciting, because I know it would suck if I wanted a Pokemon on my team and I had to lose it because I lost a Pokemon battle. Then again, I've never done that when it mattered.
We only did it once so far, and that was painful.
Did either of you guys add Ralts to your team, or are you going to hold your cards close to your chest?
We'll have to find out.
Oh, no. And the way that we're doing this, too, we don't have to play every Pokemon when we face the gym leader. So really, you could stash away this Ralts for a couple battles if you wanted to. Okay, so we all caught Ralts at a 4% encounter rate. That's actually kind of cool.
At the Pokemart in Petalburg is one I did buy more than 10 Pokeballs, and this is the first time they also introduced the Premier Pokeball, which is a cool white and red Pokeball. I really like the design of that one. And just a cool prize if you are trying to become a Pokemon hunter.
Yeah, that's the first time that they give away the Premier Ball. It actually has ruined everything for me, because now I will never buy more than 10 Pokeballs at a time. Because even if you buy 20, they're still just going to give you one Premier Ball. So you might as well buy 10 and 10 to get 2. We come across the very first gym of the Hoenn region here in Petalburg City. Are you guys ready to face the gym leader?
I'm ready.
I'm not. It's such a quick journey just to this gym. I thought our game was going to be way shorter than the first 2 games we played.
So did you fight the gym leader, Chris?
No. I walked inside, and then I figured out it was my dad, and he does not want to face me. He's scared.
No, because you're not strong enough, Chris.
The sign outside the gym does mention that this is a man in pursuit of power. So it's quite a cool thing to think that's what people call your father. And then you also find out that you're originally from Johto. So it is cool, similar to my character, Caspian, or the odds.
Yeah, but we go into the gym. We're not able to fight, but we say hi to our dad. And then this scrawny little kid walks in and he's like, oh, I want to catch a Pokemon, help me. Our dad gives him a Zigzagoon and is like, hey, help them catch a Pokemon. And we get our obligatory tutorial on how to catch Pokemon. And so that's why I thought it was so shocking in the last generation we were able to actually skip this tutorial, because in almost not every generation onward, but almost every generation onward, we do not have the opportunity to skip this tutorial anymore. So we watch Wally encounter Ralts, which is a very strong Pokemon for him to get. I don't think he deserves it. Anyways, the one thing I noticed too is the animation for Wally. He's actually left-handed. He throws the Pokeball with his left hand, which I don't think any of our user characters are.
So 2 things about that Ralts that Wally finds. One, I do like that they show that there's a Ralts there, because I like to believe that's a hint to players that there's this strong Pokemon hiding in the grass that they may not have found yet.
Yeah, that was a hint directly to me, Chris, because I didn't know it was there until we found it.
It's like, wait a second, that's Ralts. And good job for them for actually making it obtainable instead of a one-time encounter that only Wally can find. And then also, this is a really obscure fact. Shiny Pokemon do return in this generation. They have the same odds as the first 2 generations. It's 1 in 8,192. That means that this encounter that Wally gets to find a Ralts can give you a shiny Pokemon. However, this is obviously really hard to do. And what is really unfortunate is that if he catches this Ralts, it will not stay shiny in subsequent battles. And last thing about this battle is that it is actually possible for Wally to knock out this Ralts. However, it has to be so precise with the exact IVs that will allow this to happen, with the correct natures, with the correct critical hits. And someone out there has calculated that the possibility of this is 1 in 200,000. It's significantly easier to find a shiny Ralts in this battle. If he knocks it out, it will also pretend that he caught it. So he can do multiple things, but it will always steer you back to the mean.
Chris just mentioned IVs. I'm sure some of you guys are like, IV? What is that? So, fear no more.
Oh, that's what you hook up into your bloodstream when you get really dehydrated.
Fear no more. Sean is on the case and Chris is not.
Thank you.
So an IV, well, so technically it was implemented in a different way in the previous generations, but starting this generation, Pokemon now have the ability to start off with a specific number in each of their stats. And these are called IVs. Basically, for each stat, the Pokemon has a chance of its IV range being from a 0 to a 31. And that just gives a boost to that stat based on what those IV numbers is. Now, there's certain ways for you to get quote unquote perfect IV Pokemon is through some very complicated breeding process, which I'm not even going to try to explain because I barely understand it myself. IVs were technically implemented in the other two generations, just in a much more confusing way than this. But onward, this is how it will always be.
Thank you for that, Sean and Chris. One thing we did forget to mention is there is actually a tutorial of a guy showing you what gym is to earlier on. So we've already encountered quite a few tutorials. So this is definitely the start of the hand-holding that Pokemon does now, which that's definitely one negative to take from this game.
For sure.
In Petalburg Town, after Wally catches his Pokemon, you go back, the dad's proud of you. And then for your guys' games, I'm sure you just walked out fine. But for me, as I was heading out, this guy wearing sunglasses came up to me and he's like, "Oh, who are you?" Like, "Oh, wait, I see your Pokemon. You're a pretty young trainer. I don't want to talk to you right now." And he walks away. I thought that's pretty rude because he doesn't know he's talking to the future champion of this region. But, I'll let it slide this time.
Who knows? Maybe Scott will bring you to new frontiers.
Who's Scott, Chris?
Who knows? Maybe the stranger will bring you to new frontiers.
Well, you do find also Wally ends up going to Verdansk because the air is apparently clear up there. So I guess we'll see if we'll encounter him again. As we go into Route 104, this is our first encounter with some sand, and you get to see those new graphics of Generation 3. You can actually leave footprints in the sand, which I guess is a callback to the guy trying to discover the new Pokemon footprints. And this is also where you can see the water and the reflection, and it's so cool to see all these advanced graphics.
It is really cool. I like the water personally. I don't like sand. It's rough and coarse and gets everywhere.
Okay, be quiet, Anakin. Anyways, in Route 104, there's really not a lot here. There is a little house that you could go in, and you see this guy who's running around with his seagull, just having the time of his life.
I would like to say that this was probably canon-wise where Caspian Olivine sailed his boat on this little pier before heading to Littleroot. And the guy's cottage is actually called Mr. Briny. And there is a boat at the pier, so I wonder when we will be able to use that. I did also record there is a trainer called Rich Boy Winston. I did write down what he said. He said, "Sure, I'll accept your challenge. I have lots of money." So that's kind of a crazy way to accept a challenge with someone you don't really know, because that just means if you don't give me that much money, I know you got more.
And Rich Boy Winston used a full restore on his Zigzagoon against me. This guy is so rich that he can drop money on a full restore for a level 7. And you'll never know this, but Bulbapedia tells me that this Zigzagoon is holding a nugget. He just gives his Zigzagoon gold to hold.
How would you even find out it's holding a nugget if you use the steel?
Yeah, you would have to use Thief later on in the game to find that out.
So in Pokemon Emerald, it's a little different, the order that you encounter trainers. So I encountered a Lady Sydney before Winston. And for me, she used a full restore. And so using my memory, I'm like, oh, this is the one trainer who has a full restore. Because I remember there's someone who has it really early on here. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I know in my notes, when I encounter Winston, I believe he's Nelson in my game is what he's called. He also used a full restore. So I had 2 full restores used against me.
I love that. You probably won't see a full restore ever used against you in Gen 1. And then Gen 3 throws it at you in the first hour.
Rich people, man.
One last thing. I think Route 104 is the first example of flower beds where you can plant berries. There is a Oron berry and a Pecha berry that you can pick. And then you are able to plant them back into the soil to grow them for later.
I mean, technically you're wrong. I first encountered them in 102, but that's a great thing to know.
Oh. Well, then it's the second time that you can get a berry.
It's the first time we mentioned it, though.
All right. Well, you do head into Petalburg Woods now, and this is where there's a lot of new Pokemon. We do encounter our second Pokédex highlight of the episode. Slakoth. the Slacker type Pokemon, and his Pokédex reads, Slakoth's heart beats just once a minute. Whatever happens, it is content to loaf around motionless. It is rare to see this Pokemon in motion. And that's how I feel sometimes on the weekends. Very relatable.
So Dustin the Slakoth can confirm.
There are quite a few other Pokemon I caught. I think I caught like 3 or 4 additional type of Pokemon. And this is also where you encounter your first trainer with 6 Pokemon, which is just a bug type trainer. I believe he just has Wurmple.
Yes.
So yeah, he just has Wurmple and 6 Pokemon. And it's crazy that we encounter someone with so many Pokemon so early on, when in previous generations, it's usually around like the 5th or 6th gym.
And then something that we should mention, there's certain points in the Pokemon generations, in the long run of Pokemon games, there's certain points that you could point to a specific generation and you could tell that it was a soft reboot of sorts. This was definitely one of them, which I think is especially highlighted in both your games, because I think you have yet to encounter any Pokemon from generation 1 or 2. And so all the Pokemon that you guys are seeing are all completely new. Especially in the woods, you get the Caterpie clone, which is Wurmple, who has the same exact type of evolution path, but with new end results for those evolutions. For Pokemon Emerald, I do have the opportunity to encounter some earlier generation Pokemon. I know I encountered some Merrills that I caught. Yeah, I think it's very isolated, because then also in this one, we don't even have the ability to transfer Pokemon from the earlier generations to it. So it's very much a soft reboot of the Pokemon franchise.
I just didn't realize that that was kind of what they were doing there, but you're completely right, Sean. Now that I think about it, that they're bringing back some mechanics that they did in Generation 1 and are teaching you again, which I guess that's good. I like it.
And with that soft reboot, we do get our first encounter with their new evil team, which for my game happened to be Team Aqua. How about you, Chris?
Team Aqua. I had Team Magma.
Team Magma? I had Team Aqua.
So I think it must have been Team Aqua. It's 2 versus 1 here.
Yeah, Chris is just saying some random stuff.
I was just blazing rubies over here. I don't know.
Whoa, don't shout me out like that. Everyone follow me on PlayStation. I don't know.
You find out, or in my case, a Team Aqua grunt who was tired of waiting outside for an ambush, because the guy he was waiting for was just searching for a little old Shroomish. I wonder if we'll see that Shroomish again. After we do battle the Team Aqua Grunt, in my case, that's when you find out that you're actually rescuing a Devon researcher, and this researcher mentions that Team Aqua is after something in Rustboro City, so we have to go find out what this evil organization is up to, and you do receive a Great Ball already before your first gym, so that's kind of a big step up compared to previous games. We basically go to Route 104, which is up ahead. This is where you encounter the flower shop, and where they teach you if you get the Welmer Pail, you can just basically, I don't know what you call that action now. Someone help me out.
Now you could plant berries and grow them.
You can always plant them, but yeah, you can water your plants. And I actually don't know the mechanics of growing berries, so I don't know if that's necessary to grow them or if it helps decrease the timing.
I believe it is necessary that you need to water them in order for it to progress through the growth cycles.
Good. So now we can actually grow berries.
And this is where you get TM09 Bullet Seed, which I did not end up training to any of my Pokemon.
Not to your starter Pokemon, the grass starter.
I didn't think it was that good of a move.
It is one of the best grass moves that you could get so early on.
I taught it to a Pokemon. I taught it to a Shroomish that I caught in the Petalburg Woods. I named this Shroomish Doofy, and I really hope that it could be a valuable member of my team for forever.
Doofy, what a weird name. If I caught a Shroomish, I would name it Portobello, because I did catch a Shroomish and I did name it Portobello.
I caught one too, but I did not give it any name because it will not see the light of day from that PC.
And you didn't give it TM09 Bullet Seed either.
Anyways, continuing, because we're technically back on Route 104 when we leave the Rustboro Woods. This is our first time where we encounter one of the coolest mechanics too that Pokemon has thought up of, double battles. And so the first double battle is, I believe, just a Lotad and a C-Dot, which isn't anything crazy, but I love double battles. I think in my game, they implement it much more than in your games, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later. but it's just such a cool mechanic and adds so much more strategy to battles, and I just love it. And there's a reason why it's the official format for VGC now.
I can't wait for when we do our first double battle with each other, which we do have a double battle planned for our 7th episode, or at least 7th gym leader. So I can't wait for that. Otherwise, we do move forward into Rustboro City, which is the city probing the integration of nature and science. So I feel this is our first real technological city that we've ever really come across, because the first 2 generations were still pretty small regions, I want to say.
Yeah, it's a cool city. What I really like about this city is there's a lot of big buildings that you could explore in. And there's a lot of just cool stuff that you're able to see. I'm just assuming they're apartment buildings. There's one where you could talk to someone who's like, oh, my dad has a lot of money here, and gives you a premier ball. There was one which I don't remember ever encountering before, so I'm pretty sure this is just an Emerald exclusive, where there's a room where there is a girl in a bed completely surrounded by Pokédolls, and then there's the father right next to her, so you can't talk to her. But when you talk to the father, he says that, can you tell him something funny so that his daughter could smile? And so I wrote a couple random things, but she never smiled. And so I don't know what the actual mechanic is there, but I don't think that's in your guys' games. Am I correct?
You are correct with that, because I remember us talking about that, because when you mentioned that, I was like, I went into every single house. There was no way that I went into every single house and then just happened to miss that. Yeah, so the girl's name is Walda, and she's very sick. She only appears in Pokemon Emerald. And it says her father bought her the multiple Pokemon dolls, such as Pikachu and the Hoenn first partner Pokemon. If the player is able to say something to make her laugh, her father will reward them with a new wallpaper for their storage system. And it says there are 256 different passphrases for every possible wallpaper can grant. This is so weird. I don't know, Sean. I don't know how you were going to ever figure this out without research. So
yeah, there's no way. But since we mentioned the box system, so the boxes change, where in every other generation, well, just the whole UI for the boxes is different. Now you have the option to move Pokemon, and when you do that, you could actually see the little individual Pokemon sprites in the box. That goes up to 30 Pokemon in a box. And we don't have to go to the PC to actually change whatever box we're on now. When we catch Pokemon, it will just automatically go to the next box. So it is a very small but life-changing update.
Yeah, very nice for the Pokemon hunters out there. And I guess just mentioning updates too, the Pokédex is much more advanced. If you do capture a Pokemon or you see a trainer have a Pokemon that you haven't caught yet, it actually shows you the area where you can catch it. So right now, I know Chris and I are no longer searching up where to capture the Pokemon. We're trying to rely on the in-game mechanics this generation. So we'll really see who becomes the Pokemon hunter in this generation. Also, what's interesting was that it only shows the highest Pokédex number of the Pokemon you caught. So if you just start out with just your starter Pokemon, it'll only show you whatever number your Pokemon is, and it doesn't show you the total number of Pokemon. So it really makes you guess how many Pokemon they actually introduce in this generation. They did also add a couple new sections in the Pokédex, Cry and Size, so just adding a lot more information, which is really cool to see.
the last thing on that little girl that Sean was mentioning, I mentioned her name was Walda Pepper, and they named her that because if you say it really fast, it can kind of sound like wallpaper. Walda Pepper.
Keep on saying it fast, Chris.
Walda Pepper. I know, that is so dumb. Anyways, we can move on to whatever the heck else is going on in Rustboro.
You can find HM01 cut from a random building NPC. So if you are not exploring, you could have totally missed this.
I think what's really funny is I'm pretty confident in this generation, you don't even need cut. Like, you could use it to explore, but it's not necessary for the story. So I'm pretty sure I played this a couple of times, completely forgetting about that, never having cut and never having to use it.
Yeah, you're completely right. It is not required to complete the main storyline. So it'll make your life difficult, but you don't need it.
Moving on, there is another trade. Well, this is our first trade that we could have in the game. And for Pokemon Sapphire, it's a Slakoth for a Makuhita, a fighting type Pokemon.
And that's such a useful trade for right now, too, because you're about to go into the first gym. which is a rock type gym. So Makuhita is a very useful Pokemon to go into that gym. For me, I could trade a Ralts for a Seedot, which is just horrible.
Yeah, well, Seedot theoretically could be useful, especially if you were to teach it Bullet Seed, but it is a much worse trade. But it seems like both of these trades were trying to do this thing where you could find a rare Pokemon like Slakoth and Ralts, which will eventually pay dividends and be very strong Pokemon, but you're able to trade them early for instant gratification and beating this first gym later. That's what I like to believe is happening here.
Other than that, we can go into the trainer school where I think they mention about status effects on Pokemon. I believe there's a mention of Pokemon abilities here as well. And then if you go up to the professor, I think it's pretty cool for Emerald. I don't know if this happens in your guys' game because I never remembered it. But when you talk to the teacher up front, you talk to him and then he like walks away and he goes to like all the students and he comes back to you. And he's just like, oh, the students are doing so well. If you're a good student, you're going to know how to use this item. And he gives you the Quick Claw.
Apparently also at the school, they mentioned if you study here, you could become a gym leader. So I guess this is the hot spot for all the gym leaders around. We will probably touch back on that later. Finally, in this Rustboro City, there is Devon Corporation, and this is where we find out that they're the ones who actually built the running shoes that we use. So they built one of the best inventions in the Pokemon world.
The Pokemon Nike.
I like that a corporation had to invent the ability to move faster than walking.
Hey, Nike did it, so why can't they?
One thing for me in the trainer school, I do see the guy in the glasses in the corner again. And I talk to him and he's like, oh, you're here learning. You might be a good trainer. My name is Scott. Maybe we'll meet again. And then he leaves. So now I know that Scott is the rude guy who doesn't know who he's talking with.
Recurring character. Very interesting.
I don't trust this guy. He seems a little sus. That's all I have for Rustboro City. If you guys are ready to move into the gym leader.
Yeah, and we're starting something new this season. We're going to go over the PokéStats first before we go into the gym. All right, so we're going to start off with times. And for times, let's start off with least to most. So it'll be Sean, Chris, and then me.
I had 5 hours and 12 minutes.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
Took my time with it this time around. Did a lot of training.
I really thought that I would have spent the most time out of all of you guys because I just kept thinking that I was being so slow. But my time was 4 hours and 56 minutes.
Wow, that's still close to 5 hours.
I know, it's only 18 minutes less than me, Chris.
And I only had the time of 4 hours and 2 minutes. So I actually had the least amount played in this first part. I guess we'll see if we keep that up, but definitely looks like Sean's picking it up there. So let's move on to the Pokédex. So we'll again start with lowest to highest from last season. So we'll go with Sean, me, and then Chris.
I have a Pokédex of 15 because I am catching a lot of Pokemon, which is very uncharacteristic of me, but I'm doing it.
That is a lot. Wow. I have caught just one more Pokemon, so 16 at this point in time.
And I'm the same as Sean. I've caught 15 Pokemon.
Wow. Definitely a close battle for who's going to try and become the Pokemon hunter so far.
What was my prediction at the end of last season? It was either Sean would have the
More time.
It was the most playtime because it looks like right now that my prediction's coming true and Sean's passion has been reignited and he has the longest playtime.
Finally, let's go over our Pokemon party and their levels. And for that, let's go ahead and do it by... Oh yeah, this one I think we did by who won. Well, opposite. So who came in last? So Sean, me, and then Chris.
Do you want their levels at when we finish the gym?
Yeah, just final levels.
Okay.
So I guess I should preface this. We will be saying the levels after we complete the gym. So they might be a little bit higher than when we would have started.
So I had my skippers, the Mudkip, that was level 13, and Portabella, the Shroomish, at level 12.
For me, I had my Sonic the Whismer. I did call him BR Sonic because if we're going by titles, he's a little weaker than my Treecko, and BR stands for Breeze, one of the weakest rankings. And he was level 13. And then at level 16, I had TY Sylvan Grovyle, and I felt really bad that I couldn't go into our first Hoenn battle with the first starter evolution. Like, he actually evolved in the gym, so felt really bad about that.
So I have 2 issues with Dustin's Pokemon team. 1, Wishmer for rock. Actually, 3 issues. First, Wishmer going into a rock gym. Horrible idea, Dustin. I don't know why you wanted to do it. 2, we're not technically supposed to even be able to counter a Wishmer. You went up north to do more, so that's probably why you have 1 more Pokemon than us, because you got a Wishmer. I'm sure we all would have that too. And then 3, you evolved your Treecko to a Grovyle already. I mean, that's on you. And now you put us all at an extreme disadvantage for these Pokemon battles because you haven't evolved Pokemon before any one of us. Well, I mean, I don't know if Chris has one, but you have one before me, and I don't like that.
I mean, I guess we'll just see how it plays out on the Hoenn Battles.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I am mad.
Yeah, to answer Sean's question, I do not have an evolved Pokemon. I just have a Torchic named Fowler, level 12, and a Shroomish named Doofy, level 13, which, remember, that's my Pokemon to the end.
So I wanted to talk about this because I was trying to decide. I knew I wanted to bring a grass type Pokemon in here. I assumed Dustin would have had a Lotad on his team because I was debating between Shroomish, Lotad, or C-Dot. I instantly just threw out C-Dot. I thought like, oh, it's a Pokemon I've never used before, but it only knew Bide when I was using it, and I didn't want to give it Bullet Seed because also going into this, I knew there was a risk that one of my Pokemon was going to be a duplicate with one of you guys, and it's not a guarantee that I could take it on with me. I did not want to lose Bullet Seed because it's a great move that I know I would miss if I didn't have it, if I, gave it to a Pokemon that got locked. So then it was between Lotad and my Shroomish. And again, I thought Dustin would have the Lotad on his team and Chris would have the Shroomish. And I was like, you know what? If it was a Shroomish battle between my Shroomish and Chris's Shroomish, I have the advantage on my Mudkip on his Torchic. So I'll bring Shroomish in. We'll see how that plays out.
Dang. Sean playing 4D chess over here.
I just don't like the moveset he had currently, so maybe I'll have to wait on him. Going over our average party levels, both Sean and Chris are tied at 12.5 levels, and my average was 14.5 because I do have that evolution of the starter. So going into our gym against Roxanne, we can only bring those 2 Pokemon in. And this is where we find out Roxanne actually went to the trainer school. So it's proven that if you go to the trainer school, you can become a gym leader.
Something cool that I noticed in this gym is I have the opportunity to have another double battle here because in Pokemon Emerald, if 2 trainers make eye contact with you at the same time, it does a double battle.
That is a very cool addition. I do remember when I played Emerald, I just loved that idea. I don't know if they brought it into future generations, though. When I went into the gym, Sean mentioned why did I bring a Whismur in? Well, I had an even more questionable choice first, because I did whiteout at this gym. Previously, my first take, I took in a Taillow, which is also, I guess, not a great Pokemon to take in against a rock-type gym.
No, it is not.
Roxanne had a Geodude level 14 and a Nosepass level 15 in Pokemon Sapphire and Ruby. And that Geodude took it out in 1 hit. So it was all up to my Treecko to try and battle the Geodude and Nosepass, and it just couldn't survive. So that's when I figured out I needed to train my Pokemon more. Maybe this is also another reason why I evolved Grovyle, because I had to fight the gym twice now. After I whited out, I basically decided to train my Pokemon, and that's when I did end up getting the Whismur. But Whismur did just get taken down in 2 hits by Geodude, so not much better. And I had to use my Super Potion on my Treecko, and I was able to beat Roxanne with 6 HP on my 2nd try.
I just wanted to know, Dustin, you probably could have beat Roxanne with the Taillow and your Treecko had you given your Treecko Bullet Seed. Just want to say that.
Wow. I mean, we'll never know now. It's too late.
I wonder if Sean and I will have similar stories, because my experience was pretty simple. I brought in the Shroomish because my Torchic didn't really have any moves that could take down a rock gym leader. So I brought in the Shroomish, and I took down Geodude immediately with the Bullet Seed because it's a 4 times weakness. Nosepass took at least 2 moves there, but I didn't even bring in Fowler at all.
For me, I decided to start off with Skipper's the Mudkip because I wanted to get her some XP. Also, I should mention, for me, I had to go up against 3 Pokemon. It was 2 Geodudes and then a Nosepass. And so my Mudkip took down the 2 Geodudes in 1 hit. And then when she sent out the Nose Pass, I remember Nose Pass being a little bit bulkier and stronger. So I did swap to my Shroomish to Leech Seed and Stun Spore and just like try and chip it down. The idea was I thought it might be able to take down my Shroomish or at least get my Shroomish low. And so I could, get that chip damage off and switch back into my Mudkip if I had to. She ended up using 2 potions on her Nose Pass, but Shroomish was also able to take down Nose Pass.
Yeah, I completely forgot, Sean, that you have to face different movesets to us because you're kind of playing on the hard mode right now. Ruby and Sapphire is definitely going to be a little easier than what you're going to have to face with your gym leaders.
So we do beat Roxanne, and we receive the Stone Badge, which heightens attack power of Pokemon. We can now use Cut out of battle, and Roxanne does give us TM39 Rock Tomb. So with that, we can now move into our battle segment, the Hoenn Battles. So just a recap for any new listeners, we will be battling each other after every gym for the season, and whoever has the most wins gets to decide the starter Pokemon for the next game that we play. And also, we did add a new rule this season where they also get to pick one locked out Pokemon. So we did all choose a locked out Pokemon in the order that we won from last season, and we'll reveal those when we eventually add them to our teams. I guess just a little recap where we stand. Right now, Sean is the champion of Season 1, Kanto, and Chris is the champion of Season 2, Johto. So we'll have to see how it goes going to this 3rd season. We haven't had a returning champion yet. So for the listeners, we did lose some of Sean's audio. Well, we lost all of Sean's audio of the first one.
I think we got the first 2 seconds.
We did. I said, and that was all we got.
So I believe, Sean, you already gave a review of each battle.
I did do the reviews. All right. Now for the first battle of the night, it was between myself and Dustin. I led with my Mudkip. Dustin led with his evolved Grovyle. I was really hoping he would not lead with his Grovyle, so I ended up switching to my Shroomish, knowing that I really didn't have much of a chance. But for whatever reason, Dustin decided to use Absorb on his Grovyle to try and get some health back. I was then also able to get a critical hit using my tackles, and eventually that was enough for Shroomish to actually take down Dustin's Grovyle. And then he had to switch into his Wishmer, and from there, you guys should already know that Portobello, the Shroomish, he took down a Grovyle, so he could take down a Wishmer next. Now, for the next battle of the night, it was between Dustin and Chris. Chris led with his Torchic, and Dustin led with his Wishmer. Dustin got some chip damage off onto Chris's Torchic, doing some uproars, but eventually Wishmer went down, which forced Dustin to send in his Grovyle against now Chris's Torchic. And let's just say that Torchic does a lot of damage. I think Chris got off 2 Embers before Dustin was able to take down Torchic, but that right there took Dustin's Grovyle down to 15%, and Chris then sent in his Shroomish. Now, the difference between my Shroomish and Chris's Shroomish is that Chris's Shroomish doesn't know Tackle and knows Bullet Seed instead. So, Chris only had grass moves he could use against Dustin's Grovyle, and Dustin had to result in using Absorb several times over to try and keep his Grovyle alive, which he did a decent job of actually. He got Chris's Shroomish down to yellow before he ultimately was taken down. And now for the final, and some might say most pivotal match of the night, the battle for the Shroomish, me versus Chris. This was a match that involved a lot of switching, a lot of trying to outthink one another, and let's just say it was my Shroomish against Chris's Shroomish, and I had thought Chris was going to switch to his Torchic, so I decided to use Stun Spore. I was under the impression that Stun Spore would not work on Grass type, because I believe that's how it is currently, but in this generation, wouldn't you know it, Stun Spore affected Chris's Shroomish. And so Chris's Shroomish got paralyzed. It got fully paralyzed at least 3 or 4 times during this match, so luck was not on Chris's side. he decided to try and paralyze my Shroomish, but first he missed, and then he did get my Shroomish paralyzed, but my Shroomish never got fully paralyzed, because as you know, Portobello is kind of the GOAT right now, and I was eventually able to take down Chris and lay my claim to the one and only Shroomish for this run. Yeah, I just wanted to say in the first battles, we had a duplicate, and like Gen 2, I rise again, and I keep the duplicate, which I know going into this, I didn't even think I wanted to keep Shroomish on my team long term, but he kind of proved he's the GOAT here, you know? He did amazing work against Dustin, amazing work against Chris. I kind of have to keep him on my team, so you're going to see more Portobellas in the future.
I definitely fumbled our battles going 0-2 first episode with an evolution on my team.
And level advantage.
So I'm going to have to readjust my strategy for the future.
Just wait, guys. Rudy always comes and beats the Goliath.
No, he didn't. Went in for one snap, allegedly got a sack, which didn't happen in real life.
That's not what the movie told me.
Going over our records, Sean is 2-0, Chris is 1-1, and I'm 0-2. We'll really have to see how the season stacks up. If we go over our total wins, I will go over this, which Chris just surpassed me. So Chris has 20 wins and 22 losses. I have 19 wins and 23 losses. And then Sean has 23 wins and 17 losses. So the best win-loss ratio right now, even though he came in last season. All right, so that brings us a close to this episode. If you would like to see our standings or some cool visuals, you will be able to find it on our YouTube at the Trainer Trio Podcast. And if you have any cool stories of your own or questions for us, you can email us at thetrainertriopodcast@gmail.com. In our next episode, we will be talking about our experiences playing up to the next gym leader, the legendary Super Saiyan. Wait a minute, that's not quite right. His name is Brawly, though. So that is the next gym leader we're facing. Until next time, we are the Trainer Trio signing off. Catch you in Duper Town, trainers.
If all 5 of my other team members are Zigzagoons, that gives me a 50% chance of getting at least one item after every single battle.
Those are good strats already.
What can I say? I am the PokéStrat King. Don't include that in the podcast, God.